they're failing just like the New York Times, douchebag.
Hey, here we are live right here at the Lonestar Sports Show on the Lonestar Sports Network. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. FastSmallSports.com is located in Chicago, Illinois, where founder and CEO Ross Comerford continues to lead basketball through the vehicle of technology into the 21st century, making things possible that are known. Go take a look at FastSmallSports.com and see how they are with technology and basketball, doing what they're doing and accomplishing what they're accomplishing. Active time, active day. A lot been going on. I want to say I'm glad to be back. Everything came back in a whole and handsome type way with all of my personal situations. I'll just be outright about it. My mother's doing well, so that's a good thing in the grand scheme of all of this. And so we're back and engaging in where we need to be. It is basketball Thursday, but it is Texas and football. So I mean, there's a lot going on. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Longhorns and the fact that maybe Mac Brown may have been a little bit underappreciated. And obviously it's basketball Thursday. We had 36-37 of some of your best basketball players in the country, and definitely of those 37. What could we say on it? 25 of those were the best basketball players, regardless of class, in the state of Texas. So
yes,
is an accurate way. So we're going to tune into that. We're going to have in the second hour, Chris Gaston, NBA trainer of De'Aaron Fox, will be tuning in with one of our familiar personalities and often business partners, Stacy Houston with DJ H5, and what we're talking about there. But we have a more serious issue to visit right now. This has to be my fourth time probably saying this on the air, and I only have one in-house witness to verify that what I'm saying is true. That I said that when the Colin Kaepernick thing started, when we were at the studio at Dallas Weekly there in South Dallas, that we were on a long road, and this was going to open up a can of worms that was going to have the ability to initially disrupt and scatter, but I think when it's all said and done, it's going to have the ability to galvanize us as a community, as a country, and what we're seeing, and the initial interpretation and the hijacking of the protests took all of its turn. Everything that went on with the NFL took a knee. It was unpatriotic. We had all of the so-called conservative, patriotic, military support, supposedly blue-blooded true Americans.
Can I interrupt for just a second? This one kind of pisses me off, is because if you were going to ask me, am I liberal or conservative? Someone asked me that one time, and I said, if you'll take like 2 hours to define those two words, I'll take 5 days to give you an answer, right? And I would say that socially I'm extremely liberal, and fiscally I'm extremely conservative.
I agree with that.
I'm conservative as hell fiscally. I'm as patriotic as anyone, as you know, and there's no way that fits into everyone's narrative, because if I'm liberal, I must be fill in the blank. And I get so sick and tired of the intellectually lazy people who just take the first snapshot they see, and that's all it ever is. And I'm so sick and tired. I'm so
it's a very accurate way of putting it too, Tom. I have to have a lot of respect for what you just said. It could have been put any better, and not by design. I agree with you to a high level, to a great situation. I feel like that when you are dealing with fiscal affairs, there is a level of conservative management and how you go about it, and sound judgment decision. But when you come to social affairs and you're dealing with human beings are human beings, and all human beings deserve to be treated with respect, and we should be concerned about a holistic approach toward our community, no matter which lane they happen to travel in.
Well, I got an email one time and it said top 10 reasons that I'm not a Republican. Number 1, I'm not nearly mean enough. Number 2, I'm not nearly racist enough. Number 3, I'm not nearly greedy enough. Number 4, repeat, rinse, wash,
the cycle all over again.
And it's ridiculous, because the bottom line is, like, I always ask people, I said, first of all, we've always had socialized medicine in this country. Anyone who thinks that we don't is an idiot, because in 1963, when I was born, if a person got in a car wreck on Highway 30, they went to Parkland Hospital and somebody paid for it besides them. And ever since I've been a baby, we've had socialized medicine, but nobody wants to say that. And so now all of a sudden, everyone wants to go batshit crazy because 30 million people have insurance. And they're the first ones to mock it and say it's bad insurance. So then what are you all hung up about? Any insurance is better than no insurance. And this idea that they're going to sleep better at night, or that your steak's going to taste better at night, or that they're, come on, man. What's the famous line from, you remember the movie Wall Street? Gordon Gekko was played by Mike Douglas, and Charlie Sheen was young. And he said, Gordon, how many yachts can you water ski behind? Come on, dude.
Yeah. And that's all true on that whole deal, but it all comes down to the fact that, it really disturbed me initially when he took the knee, and so-called facet. I don't know if we call them conservative. I don't know if we call them racist. I don't know what we call them. But a certain group of Americans jumped up and grabbed this situation, totally ignored the real reason, and still to this day, Tom, are so stubborn about not wanting to look at the content or the purpose of the protest, and only want to utilize this along with Donald Trump.
That's one of my points on my rant, is exactly that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what the narrative is, because I know what the narrative is. I'm so sick and tired. I've watched a great commercial on CNN. I'm sure you guys have seen that, where it shows an apple and it bounces by, and then an apple bounces by. It says, this is an apple. This is an apple. And then a banana goes by and it says, this is not an apple. Words matter.
Yeah.
And I'm a really smart person. I mean, I might be a jerk, and I am a jerk, but I'm a really, really smart jerk. And I can't stand being told what I heard and then being told I didn't hear it.
Right.
Drives me crazy.
And that's the disturbing part of it. As soon as this protest came about, they drove right in to to kill the purpose of the protest and utilize patriotism and supporting being American and supporting the military and what the flag was all about, and said that this was a protest against the flag.
How would you like to be a black veteran cop? A black veteran cop. You want to talk about having your testicles in a vice. I mean, talk about every single day. It's bad enough to be a cop at all because it's kind of a crappy job. I respect they do it, but it can't be a very rewarding job with all the danger and all the negativity involved in it. And then all of a sudden they have to go to work with these people who think that they've got a corner on patriotism. And again, let's go with Trump about, what did he take, 5 deferments for bone spurs in his feet, that candy ass, and yet he wants to be the barometer of patriotism?
Yeah,
and
then turn around, and let me go ahead and step out on this deal, turns around and wants to condemn John McCain.
John McCain, right.
John McCain,
right.
For his patriotism and discredit that his serving in the military, that it wasn't effective, and he didn't do this and he didn't do that, and basically, just totally killed from a derogatory stance all the great things that he did for his country.
I had a friend of mine who's a military person, and he said to me, I'm really glad that Trump didn't get into the military. And I said, why do you say that? I would like to watch him getting tortured. He said, can you imagine how quick he would have ratted everyone out when he went to the Hanoi Hilton? The same place that McCain went and stayed for 6 years. They offered to let him leave early, and he stayed anyway because he's a stand-up guy, and Trump can't define stand-up guy. But the whole idea that he thinks that he can morph the narrative and then hold everyone hostage, and he's going to do it real soon because now he's up to his ears in shit in Washington. So now he needs to deflect his strat game.
It's going to be it's going to be sink the whole ship. Now that's the stance.
He's going scorched earth. He's going scorched earth right now.
Right, and that's what happens when you turn that thing around. But bring this thing back around to where we are with Kaepernick on this situation, and obviously I have some type of relationship with Under Armour, but I have some really close friends and family and people that are in with Nike, and I have to applaud Nike for taking the stance that they took. It comes across initially everybody want to grab it. Everybody wants to always jump on a Fortune 500 company, a billion-dollar operation like Nike. They want to jump on real fast and say, okay, let's steer it this way. Well, initially when this happened, they wanted to steer all of this saying that, this is going to kill Nike and Nike is dead and done. And that's another brand of ignorance that they illustrate one more time. I asked Lady Life earlier before we started the broadcast tonight. I said, Lady Life, explain to me how someone can look in the mirror and justify their intelligence to continuously point the finger at patriotism when it's obvious that there's nothing anti-patriotic about this protest.
I'll tell you why. My grandfather used to register dead people to vote in Chicago. That's really no BS. You literally register dead people to vote. And he used to tell me rule number 1 of politics is 85% of people are stupid. They're just idiots. So you could tell them anything. And when I was telling my nephew about what Grandpa said, right, I said, my grandpa was, I guess whatever that makes him, I said, my grandfather was a really smart guy. And I said, but you need to beware of any person who gives you simple solutions to complex problems. Beware of the man who gives you a simple solution to a complex problem. Well, Donald Trump was going to come in and fix, everything's going to be fixed in an hour. It's going to be fixed in an hour. And again, be careful of all that.
But I still go back to, I don't know if I completed my statement. What does it say about the American citizen, we'll call him, that is still pointing the finger at the Kaepernick protest in the midst of everything that has transpired, and it is trying to identify it as an unpatriotic act and does not want to recognize the reality of what's actually being protested?
Because they're part of the 85%. That was my point.
And
it's so easy. It's so easy to bait them into a simple situation, and they put their blinders on.
And I guess that's the difference in me being black and you being white. Maybe, Tom, I don't know. I think you give them a hall pass there. I feel like we're looking at a situation where there is a legitimate racist perspective on things that they just want to hold on and jump on the bandwagon.
Well, that's the basis of it. I'm not giving them a pass.
Yeah.
I'm saying that what you're doing is you're appealing to something really, really simple, which is I said it's patriotism. Okay, you said so it must be. So now I'm pissed off, and then the inner racist in me starts scratching my belly, and there it is.
Well,
no, there's no doubt about that.
And we're going to come back and we're going to visit this some more when we come back from the break. This particular segment was brought to you by Harlem Hotels. Go take a look at HarlemHotels.com. See where you can have the opportunity to put your money where you sleep. We're back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show right on the Lone Star Sports Network. We got my host, Tom Inman, co-host Alan Branch, Lady Life, keeping us in between the lines, and my main man, Anu Money, the Prince, making it do what it does. Be right back.
Harlem Hotels. Make money where you and millions of others spend money. Harlem Hotels Investment and Development Group's primary disciplines include hotel acquisitions, hotel development, hotel project management, as well as asset and partnership management. At Harlem Hotels, we invest in upscale focused service and extended stay hotel properties, mainly in Texas and other major urban markets. We are hotel owners, developers, investors, and asset managers persistent in our pursuit of successful ventures and passionate about our products. We provide nationally branded investment opportunities, including Hilton, Marriott, and Hyatt hotel franchises. Harlem Hotels strategically places the right product in the right location for the right customer. Get started with us today. Visit us online at www.harlemhotels.com. Harlem Hotels, put your money where you sleep.
Hey, here we are back here at the Lone Star Sports Show. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. Go take a look at FastSmallSports.com and see how they are leading basketball into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology. FastSmallSports.com. Getting it all done. They also have Fast Malls Technologies now that's behind the scenes of creating all the vehicles that allow sports to move in that direction, primarily basketball with Fast Mall, but technology is playing a huge role through the vehicle of analytics, and a company like Fast Mall Sports is leading the charge mainly through basketball. But we're right here at the Lone Star Sports Show. You got Tom Inman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and my man, Under Your Money, better known as the Prince, getting us to where we are. Prince means he's the heir to the throne. He smiled about that. He ain't gotten the key to the treasure chest yet, but he's in line for it. And trust me, he's earning it every single day. But you come back. We go Kaepernick. And I thought one of the interesting angles and that's talked about in this situation, in the whole campaign is about believing something that you're willing to give and sacrifice everything for. And Lady Life is pretty astute, and you might pick up on this too. I know I may be too young to remember statement that if you haven't found, and somebody correct me, if you haven't found something worth dying for, then you haven't found a reason to live. In other words, there should be something that exists in what it is that you do that you would be willing to die for.
Well, without going off on a rant about this, one of the things I feel like people under 40 are sort of cheated by, pardon me, was you and I are 55. And we caught just the tail end of the civil rights movement. We were little kids. So we didn't
but not to be impacted, right?
Yeah, but you didn't quite know why Angela Davis had the big fluffy hair, but you remember Angela on TV, and you remember the whole rundown of it. So I always felt like that enriched us, and I always felt like it broadened your horizons, even if you don't agree. Yeah, right. And then it
gave you some perspective,
right? And that's my point about I admire what Kaepernick did, because the first thing I remember saying when he.
But then you got a youngster like Lady Life that's sitting there, and even though she didn't have that experience, I guess it has more to do with her overall social makeup and home bringing.
She's an old soul in a young body.
Yeah, and that could be a way of explaining it. But the point is that for Nike to take a stance on this deal, everyone throws it out there. Oh, they're committing suicide.
No, they're not.
No, they just did the most ingenious thing that they possibly can.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I have no problem with the fact that them marketing and bringing a vehicle that is going to add to their bottom line, because there's nothing wrong with adding to their bottom line, in the fact that they're doing it in the name of this is right.
Well,
they're the first legitimate, high-profile, multi-billion-dollar organization or any type of entity to come in and support Colin Kaepernick. Yes or no?
Oh, absolutely the first. If anybody had any doubt that was timed out, that this thing was absolutely timed to coincide with the opening kickoff, which is about, an hour from now, right? And then it's going to be played up, because one of the things I always joke with Rex about is I really want him to gear me up now, because not so much I want New England stuff, but now that they have Nike gear, I like the gear. I used to hate those Reebok jerseys. They're crap, right? Well, I got news for you. Every single thing that is on that field has got a swoosh, whether Donald Trump likes it or not, whether or not a few people get pissed off and burn their shoes or not. It doesn't make any difference.
The guys that burn the socks just show the idiotic nature.
That's more free advertising.
Yeah, and it's more free advertising. You walked in, I got $43 million of free advertising. You walked in at over 100.
Well, that was 2 days ago, and that's what I was just saying, because just in the last couple of days, they said it's just blown up, because it's an exponential type of thing, man.
Right.
It's a bonfire. Yeah. And, of course, you should expect something from Trump, because he needs a distraction play. But then at the end of the day, what he's doing is giving him more free play.
I called my source in Beaverton, Oregon today, which is the headquarters of Nike campus, and said, hey, what's going on? What's the stance? You know what the simple answer was? Yeah. He's on our side. Cool. Being Phil Knight.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that. Phil Knight says when you walk around the Nike campus, every statue around there, or the majority of the statues around there of all the iconic athletes
are black people.
Right.
Well, but again, part of my point, in fact, it's really funny that you mentioned Phil, because Phil is an old hippie. Phil is
good point.
Phil's an old throwback to Woodstock kind of guy. He's an enlightened white man. He's been around black people his whole life, because he's an athlete and a coach and all that different stuff. So he is a different type of white guy, and that's why, again, it's intellectually lazy. All white people aren't any one thing any more than all black people are any one thing, right? We're all
human beings with our variations.
We're a summation of our experiences, right?
No doubt.
At the end of the day, it's really kind of cool to see him do that, because he's willing to take that risk. And at the end of the day, what's really great about it is, if you want to get in a pissing contest, I guess for lack of a better phrase, Nike's probably not the one to do it with, because Under Armour, I literally sold my Under Armour stock the other day. I just gave up, took the tax loss and harvested it. I just gave punt. I don't give a shit. I'm done. And, Adidas, I probably should have bought some of that, but Nike, somebody's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
People got stock options are going to make a lot of money on this mess.
Yeah. Now,
coming into Christmas, Colin Kaepernick set for Christmas. Woo-hoo.
Right. And if they come out with that product, that would be a tremendous deal that we would potentially be into in that situation, a marketing deal, if we come out with gear that's supporting that deal. Because obviously I have a relationship with Under Armour, and I don't wear Nike stuff, but I would probably go out and buy something in support.
I would too. I do the same thing.
In support of the process.
I might not even wear it. I might just buy it. But I could see right now, I could see a really, really cool shadow, like a silhouette of Kaepernick with his big old nappy afro. I could see a really cool Nike silhouette set up where that would become the Jordan, maybe not as iconic as Jordan with the hangman split legs.
Jumpman, right.
But you could do something really, really badass with Colin Kaepernick and all the symbolism that you could drag in.
You know, now in support of Under Armour has also joined in and is supporting the process. They just don't have as much.
Well, they don't have the leverage, and I'm sure that Kevin Plank would probably love to. I'm not bad mouthing these guys.
Well, I mean, no, he's already gone on record. I've already read the article and located where Under Armour is on board with the same process of taking the stance of this thing is not about patriotism. This is about people being treated right.
Well, you know what? Here's a weird twist. I heard this about the Nike deal was suddenly there were people who wanted to criticize Nike because Nike makes shoes in third world countries. Okay, they do. And there's something to be said for slave wages paid to Vietnamese people to make your shoes and everything. Okay, but let's not act like cars aren't made that same way. It's only a problem now, right? It's only a problem now because it's about shoes.
Convenience, right.
And here's another one that's interesting. They said, now suddenly they said, well, is Colin Kaepernick willing to reconcile the fact that Nike has women who are suing the company? And you know what was really interesting that I saw today? The first professional sport in North America to pay women and men equal amount was the World Surfing Association. I love surfing. I'm like, when I grew up, I want to be a surfer, right? And I was watching this thing.
Time has run out on you, Coach.
I know that. Father Time's undefeated. But anyway, it was interesting because they literally, the exact same way, exact same board, whatever, pays the same money. And it's interesting because I think that Nike probably would love to clarify and rectify that stuff. And I think that standing principled is I always admire principled people because I really believe I'm principled, but I'm not sure how many zeros you could add to my principles before I'd flinch. I'm just being straight up honest with you, man. I mean, $17 million was Kaepernick walk away, plus everything he lost since. So people can say, well, he sold his soul because he lived on the Nike nipple.
Well,
so
hey,
what? You got to pay your bills somehow.
Maybe he utilized the Nike nipple to finance the cause.
So more power to him.
Well, I mean that.
Ronald Reagan sold crack to finance Iran-Contra.
Nothing works well without money. So why couldn't he be financing the cause, by inviting Mike? Why couldn't he be empowering the cause? But I mean, I don't see anything negative that has come out of this situation for all parties involved. You say, who are all parties involved? First of all, young black men walking around with the fear of being abused by police brutality, being abused by a police officer, or any other type of racist act toward a young black man, because that's what the whole deal is all about. Now, they didn't lose anything. Colin Kaepernick, who's been the human martyr and has lost all these millions of dollars as a professional quarterback, and where he was, his situation has been fueled. And then Nike turns around over here, and we see they've gotten, I say 43, you say $130 million of free advertising, and their stock is on the rise, and they're going to benefit. The only losers I see in this situation is that you had a company like Nike with enough backbone, enough somebody, enough business savvy to line up and join on a situation to finance a process that hopefully will bring awareness to an issue that we have in this country.
Well, one of my favorite things that I made a note to myself I wanted to talk about was I'm really curious to see how political or how apolitical these ads with Nike will get. Because one of the things, real quick story was, preface this story with the fact that I love Michael Jordan. I'm the same age as Michael Jordan, grew up in Chicago. I'm a Bulls fan for life, okay? And I'll never forget when Horace Grant wanted his endorsement in a political campaign, and Michael refused. And when everyone asked Michael why he wouldn't endorse his homeboy, he said, Republicans buy shoes too. And I think he thought
he just never wanted to be a part of politics.
Well,
I mean, Michael's a great basketball player.
But he's not a very good person.
Right.
That's my point. I lost a lot
I
of
don't know if he's not a very
him.
good person. He just didn't want to step out and do that. On the other hand, you take a guy like a LeBron James, who is a hell of a basketball player, maybe not quite as good as LeBron, depending on who you're talking to, but I mean not quite as good as Michael. But on the flip side of it, he's taking the torch from someone like the running back Jim Brown.
Right, but that was my point. Was I held Michael in contempt because I always thought he was kind of an Uncle Tom. Frankly, let's be honest. I mean, Republicans buy shoes. Well, okay, so do poor black kids today. So and it's nice to see Nike not just take a stand.
Yeah.
For doing the right thing and just damn the torpedoes. We'll see where all the chips fall.
And that comes down to, as we get ready to go to break, is that, we don't put a feather in Chicken Tom's hat right here, that it always comes down to money. It's going to always be a part of it. And when we come back, we're going to analyze politics, sports, and money.
Can't separate them.
You can't separate them. You can't get away from it. And the social platforms that need to be addressed and dealt with are going to have their political and fiscal nature about them. You can't get around that. The social cars need gas just like the racist cars need gas. Hey, here we are right here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Ticking Tom Inman, Alan Branch, Honey the Prince, and Lady Life, making it do what it does. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show. Hey, we're back here at the Lone Star Sports Show, right on the Lone Star Sports Network. We're back on Facebook Live. We're glad to have you guys back. Want you guys to hit share out there and push it back around and get back to where we were about a year ago on Facebook and get all our audience back there. We're also still on our YouTube channel on the Lone Star Sports Network where you can get us there. Follow us on social media at TX Boys Basketball, at Lone Star Sports Show on Twitter also, and there's also a Instagram account that goes along with that to see more about what's going on and the situation. We actually do have a website of LoneStarSportsShow.com also that exists, that we're going to be bringing things around to get a better understanding of what's going on in our world. Like, we're glad to be back here after our long vacation, how everything went. In the second hour, we're going to have Chris Gaston and my man also Stacey Houston with DJ H5 will be there as they directed the Elite Grind Camp. We're going to talk about that, talk about some of the prospects and what went on. But before we went to break, we were right there on the fact of politics, sports, and money. Can't separate them any way you want to look at it. Tom has a saying that goes that, you can go around, you can talk about this, you can talk about that, but you cannot exclude the financial, fiscal nature of every single issue, every single component, every entity, every operating nature of anything going on. Always going to come back, okay, have we addressed the financial nature of this?
Answer to everything is money.
Yeah. And I don't know if I guess that's one way of saying it. The answer to everything is money. I don't think you can exclude finances out of any process. The process that we do right here, much as we enjoy doing this and whatever, still going to come down to, is this show generating money or not generating money?
Don't kid yourself. Somebody at Nike convinced Phil and everyone. I mean, part of it is a very principled stand, and I do believe that. But if somebody at Nike had walked up to Phil Knight and said, you are about to commit corporate suicide,
financial suicide,
you will be worth $5 a share tomorrow morning, and he really truly believed it, he wouldn't do it. I mean, as much as I do believe he's principled, he's not an idiot.
Well, I mean, and you're right. And does that make him a bad guy because he's not an idiot?
No, he's smart enough to take advantage.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things that always kind of blows me away of how, people go about looking at things is that if you're not willing to jump off a cliff and tie a rope around your neck, then you really, we don't get any credit for being our stewardship, being good financial managers, being fiscally accountable in the pursuit of the strategy of how we go about reaching things.
Well, they kept him on retainer for a reason. I mean, let's be honest with you. I think, again, part of it is clearly that they believe in the principle and the nuances of all the principles of the situation. However, on the other hand, they also knew that they were putting him on retainer it was a cost benefit type thing. Yeah. All right. For the last 8 years, we've given him $500,000. That's $4 million. That's couch change for Phil. That's nothing. That's nothing.
I got one for you. The Black Panthers car needs gas, and the KK's car needs gas. Both of them got to buy gas.
And everyone's got to eat.
They both got to eat. Well, everything has to function, so you cannot eliminate the economic component of any cause, any operation. Hell, it costs to breathe around this camp.
Well, and that's why the people who come across with this, holier than thou, sanctimonious, we're out to hell. Like I remember Jerry Tarkanian used to always talk about it. I just want to help the poor and privileged black youth of America. Well, then
all those that are 6'9" and above.
Yeah, right. But give Urkel a scholarship, then I'll believe you actually care. Come on, dude, give me a break.
Yeah, and then and I'm going to step in on a situation like that. It's funny we're talking about this, where it has led to. Why, if you're genuine and you're trying to do something, why do you have to be stupid?
In reference to who now?
In reference to anyone that jumps up and says or points the fact out that someone is trying to help this or do this, why do we have to question the legitimacy of what Phil Knight is doing here? Because it makes financial sense.
Well, what bothers me is that it all goes back to the social media that I still to this day have never been part of. It makes everyone think they're more important than they are. It makes everyone think that everyone really cares about what they got to say. Shut up and go to work, dude. Go raise your kids. Go find an interest or something. But everyone who thinks that they're, but I guess everyone's got a smartphone thinks that they're a journalist.
I guess my point is that some weird perspective in society that says that you're not serious about whatever it is you're supporting if you don't go broke and stand on the corner and wear raggedy, dirty clothes, then you're not supporting the process. You can't have an intelligent, fiscally responsible, stable pursuit. Dr. King ran a business when the movement was going on. They raised money. It was brought to Aretha Franklin, and those people were singing and doing this and doing that to raise money for the cause, so they continue the cause. So, why is it a bad thing? It's a funny deal. We want to say money is the root of all evil. That's a lie. The love of money is the root of all evil.
That's exactly right.
The inability to manage finances. So now every time someone comes along with a cause and they feel like there was any kind of a fiscal benefit from it, well, the only reason they did it was for the money.
Well, now let's pull politics in just a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because once you start pulling politics in and you start saying to yourself, what was the last thing you just said? I just veered off my thought for a second.
Yeah, no, the last point that I was making is that we always want to point the finger at someone. I'm going to even go a step forward, and I may be going out there a little bit. Alan Branch is in grassroots basketball to help kids, through multiple vehicles of access education. Now, the fact that I make money at it, does that make me a bad guy? because I make a living and help kids at the same time?
There's no nobility in poor. There's no nobility whatsoever in not being able to pay your bills.
Right, exactly.
No, zero.
I mean, I would have and that's the whole thing. You might have just said it in a nutshell right there, Tom. We would have no ability to sustain our purpose if we didn't have any money. Broke people don't get anything done in a capitalistic society.
Hey, well, let me go back to that thought about politics. Trump sets a horrible tone because, I mean, he's rude and disrespectful and vulgar, and he's an idiot. And it's one of those things where, like, if you ever watch a kid and a young white kid uses the N-word, or a young black kid uses a really vulgar words toward white people, they learn that from somebody, and they learn that from an adult, because kids aren't programmed. Okay, we all take our cues from what we perceive to be allowed and tolerated.
Well, you said it earlier, maybe before we came on the air, that we all are a product of our environment and how we've been raised.
Right, and I was taught that I never heard my father one time. My dad's an ass. My dad really is an ass. I hope you're out there listening, Pop. My dad is really an ass at times, but I've never one time ever heard him say the N-word. I'm married to an African woman. That doesn't bother him at all. All he said is, I think you're freaking crazy. Why would you marry this clown? Pointing to his own son, right? But at the end of the day, he raised me, and my mother raised me to, if you got something to say, if you don't have something nice to say, just don't say it. And I could be really a sarcastic guy. I like, tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I took my cues from my mom and dad about what's acceptable and what's not. And now we went from what I really thought was a cool era with Obama, when we were kind of getting back into that civil rights groove, and now all of a sudden we got everyone's crazy-ass uncle in Washington just throwing napalm on everything. And my point I'm finally getting to is, so now everyone feels, between social media and this asshole we have for president, everyone feels liberated just to take shots at everyone. And the loudest guy in the room is not the most dangerous guy in the room. I always grew up with a bunch of Italian people in my neighborhood. They always say, you need to watch out for that dude over there ain't saying nothing. That's right. The dude you better watch out for. Not that loud guy like me. You ain't got to worry about me. I'm the loudest guy in the room.
Well, the thing about you, Tom, is I've known you for a number of years now. I listen to what people say, but I watch what they do even more. And when I've had an opportunity to observe you, is that, you say a lot of crazy political stuff, and you're real outright. And I wouldn't call it crazy political stuff, but you say other things that other people are thinking you're willing to say it.
Right.
That's what it really comes down to a lot of the time. But I also have to look at how you manage your kids, how you coach your teams, how your kids behave, and the success that they had on beyond after they had left you. That's where if you want to look at a situation, you got to look at the fruit that you bear.
Well, I used to tell refs, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. Thank you, that was nice of you to say. But I remember, like, there were times when the ref would give one of my kids a tee, and I'd say, "What'd he say?" And he would say something. I said, no, listen, man, I'm all over his ass. Listen, man, I'm not. And I would tell my kids, I said, they're not listening to 2% of what I got to say. They're not listening to 1% of what you got to say. So shut up, man. And that's one thing the refs used to always say. You might be really combative and feisty and stuff, but you always made sure your kids understood that they sat below both of us.
Yeah,
on the totem pole of basketball. Shut up and play.
You manage the process, right? So, like I say, those things. But going back to the real topic that we are here is, I have to agree with a lot of what you're saying. Is that with a nut like the president being in place and acting in the non-traditional way that he has stained Pennsylvania Avenue in the White House there, and how everything functions, I think it somewhat gives people a license or a hall pass to do some of the nutty, crazy things that they feel like they want to do.
That's my point. He doesn't have to behave. He doesn't have to use proper language. He doesn't have to act decent. Why do I have to act decent?
Well, I mean, there was a group of kids on a college basketball team that told their head coach, you complain about us saying this about women doing this right here. It doesn't work like that anymore. Look at the White House. Look at what he does. He said this. He grabbed a woman into this, and he did this, and he did that. So why are you on us so hard about it? That's just the world we live in. It's socially acceptable. That's an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid justifying disrespectful behavior towards women because the president can do it.
They got a phrase called for it, whataboutism. It's called whataboutism. What about when Honey did? What about when Alan did it? What about? Shut up. What about Hillary? Hillary's not the president.
Yeah,
idiot.
And it doesn't justify the whataboutism you're talking about.
It's a misdirection play.
It's a misdirection play to get the attention off of you and what it is that you're looking at and what you're trying to go at, or trying to find your angle to take the pressure off of you so that you're not being scolded for for inappropriate behavior.
You want to hear a funny story right along those lines? I'll make it real quick. A buddy of mine says, the number one reason no one should ever have 3 kids. I said, why is that? He said, you'll have to play zone. If you have 2 or less, you can play man to man. And I used to always joke about that with these kids because you got a single mother with 5 kids, right? Well, she can only give you crap 20% of the time. Mm-hmm. So she's lighting your ass up, and the other 4 are smirking. She works to number 2, and she just works her way around the little Gatling gun. And I mean, you can't be you're not gonna be on the crapper all the time. Just wait for her to run out of juice, and she'll go mess with your little brother, So.
Oh boy, that's hilarious. This particular segment was brought to you by HardhamHotels.com. Go take a look and see how you can put your money where you sleep. Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show as we get ready to move towards basketball wins. We're going to take a look and see, do or does the University of Texas Longhorn family have a reason to be missing Mac Brown right about now? Hey, here we are back here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Making it do what it does. All things sports, all things Texas. So can't come around. We can't ignore right here in the middle of football season, Coach. I got a trivia question for you. When's the last time that the University of Texas football team won 3 games in a row?
I think you told me, so I'm cheating a little bit, but I think you told me it's been in the Mac Brown era,
right? Which
takes you back from, this is 2 years now of Herman, 2 years of Charlie Strong.
5. When you're 5.
5 years. So
until you're 5 without Mac. And the thing about it is that, Mac was being ridiculed so much, but nobody gave him credit for all the BS that he managed and kept going in the right direction to be able to get that program in the situation.
Charlie Strong was a three-ring circus. That place is a three-ring circus down in Austin. Just complete mess.
Well, it's not any different. You don't think it's a three-ring circus at Alabama? You don't think it's a three-ring circus at Clemson? You know, any major, high-profile, Power 5 big program is a three-ring circus to manage. There's always some BS going on that has to be dealt with, whether it's with the media, whether it's with some player making a bad decision, whether it's with campus police. There's always something going on all the time.
You know, one of the biggest problems is the committee that puts that person in place. Like, I got a funny story. John Clark was the guy that coached football at Plano forever, John Clark Stadium, right? And when he retired, he was going to name his successor. Or no, I'm sorry, it was after Tommy Kimbrough left. Somebody said, who's going to be on the search committee? He said, search committee? I'm a committee of one. He said, committees are for cowards. Because what happens is, if we're all a committee here and we hire the right people, then we all want credit. But if we hire the wrong person, well, let's put it on Lady Love over there, because what the hell, they can't prove otherwise.
Right.
And so you never really know who's pushing the buttons. Like Joe Jamail's got so much money.
I remember when Joe Jamail was a part of hiring Mac Brown too.
Right.
And how he stood up and had balls enough to stop the deal.
You can make the argument though, if Mac Brown doesn't win that game against USC, they'd have fired his ass too.
Yeah, but this is my point. I'm not here to chant how great Mac Brown was.
Right. But they probably would like to have him back. You're probably
That's
right.
my point.
No, I got you. It's a train wreck now. It's even worse.
And the thing is that when you start going out thinking you're going to get better, it's kind of like divorcing your wife because you don't like this or she doesn't put no pepper in the food or whatever, and you go get something else and you look back and say, I had it better. The point I'm getting at is people don't realize how big a job it is to manage a high-profile program with those kind of expectations.
Well, not only that, but if you want to give me 30 seconds to rant, one of my biggest problems I have with when they promote a mid-major successful coach to be a head coach at the high major Power 5 conference level.
I've heard this before.
It's apples and oranges.
It didn't come from you.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges, because when he would get one of the top 30 players out of Houston at the University of Houston, that would change that hammer athletic conference called the American Athletic Conference. But when you go to Texas, you got to get 8 of those just to keep even with Oklahoma, because they got 9.
Oklahoma, right? Yeah.
So I mean, I was watching the Longhorn Network the other day, and I'm not a big fan of Tom Herman. I think he came in talking too much trash about Charlie Strong. I didn't care much for it. I thought it showed a lack of class. And I was listening to him yesterday, and there's just something really hollow about all of his rah-rah bullshit. And he might get it going, but Texas doesn't have a lock on recruiting. They used to have first cherry pick. They just picked everyone off the top, and everyone else took the crumbs off the bread.
Well,
that ain't the case no more.
And here we go, slide into recruiting. It always kind of shows up on this show some kind of way or another. If you don't have relationships with the people that continuously develop and are involved and are part of the landscape of where the players are, you ain't gonna get shit done.
I know where you're going with Charlie Strong, because the biggest mistake he made, he rang the bell he could never unring. Remember what he did? He took a big photo op with a bunch of Florida coaches and made a big deal out of recruiting Florida kids. And everyone's sitting there thinking, look, dude, if you took the job at the University of Rhode Island, we'd understand why you went home to Florida to bring in players. You took the job at Texas, for Christ's sake. You don't need to be doing nothing but getting to know every single freaking high school coach in this state. And at the end of the day, that was a train wreck, but I think they short-sighted him on his contract. And then with Tom Herman, you just literally threw $25 million at a guy as long as he was willing to say yes, and he was the flavor of the month. And here we are 2 years later, and he's a 500 coach who's lost to Maryland twice. I'm ranting now, but Maryland's only beat a Power 5, or it's only beat a Power 5 conference team. No, not Power 5, top 25 team, once in the last 7 years, and it's Texas twice.
Right. No, and only once that Texas, when they beat them, was Texas a top 25 team too.
Yeah, exactly. The first time, right?
First time. This time they were
falling, right?
Right. And I mean, and here's the whole thing about it was I almost thought we didn't have anybody in the top 25 of any of the Texas teams, and I totally apologize because I realized how good a job they've been doing over in Fort Worth, right here in our backyard. Just kind of take it for granted. They've been doing a great job.
Hey, did I tell you that story about Colt McCoy's father? When Colt McCoy went to his first meeting, he was in Cleveland, right, as a rookie. He goes into a meeting with Eric Mangini, and Eric Mangini's a real rough, kind of a gruff person, worked for Belichick, doesn't, not warm and fuzzy. And he walks up with a straight face and says, so are you as big an effing wuss, I'm abbreviating here, as the rest of those effing wussy boys down in Austin? and he was waiting for Mangini to smile, and he didn't because he was serious. And for whatever the reason is, and I'm not here to speculate that because I don't live in Austin. I don't analyze the football program, but there's a bubble down there they can't seem to bust. I don't know. Maybe the weather's too nice. Maybe they give too much gear. Maybe there's too many pretty girls. Maybe I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I don't know what the problem is.
Well, I mean, reiterate that just a little bit, Coach, when you say that there's something that seems to be in the air in Austin that brings about some type of wussy, soft.
And again, I'm not here to speculate. I'm only telling a story. It's just an anecdote.
No,
but
right.
there is a reputation around the league that Texas players are soft. Look at that year when nobody got drafted. Remember that year? Everybody who came out was a 4- and 5-star player. Everyone, when they came out of high school, they would have told you we're going to have 8 to 10 players get drafted. Nobody got drafted.
Well, that was one of the first things that happened. I think it happened with Charlie when they jumped up and said that we didn't have any more NFL Pro Day here because we don't have any more pros.
Well, Charlie Strong told more than one of friends of mine, well, I can't name, of course, like high school head football coaches that have been around forever. I didn't realize it was this effed up. I didn't realize it was this bad.
And he didn't realize what was that effed up.
The talent level. He said the talent level. I didn't realize it was this bad.
Okay.
Because Mac had let it run down a little bit. Okay, but then you came in and took the dysfunction of bringing in an outsider who probably misplayed his cards. Then he only stays 2 years. So now you've got another dysfunction. And going back to, the problem with Texas recruiting is that Texas got bad at a really bad time because when Texas got bad, A&M got really good. Oklahoma was good. Baylor was good. I mean, we know there was blood dripping off the stadium, but they were good, right? And, I mean, a lot of people, even Texas Tech has gotten pretty good. So now I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would be willing to bet that the distribution of top 200 players in America is way, way more balanced across the Big 12 than it used to be. It used to be Texas got whoever the hell they wanted. Oklahoma got kind of the rest right underneath that, and then everything's sprinkled.
Right.
And I think the level of parity probably is really high. I don't know if maybe only can find that.
And how do you let that happen at a place like the University of Texas?
Because you got lazy. I mean, like I know that Mac Brown fired Bruce Chambers, and Bruce got blamed for it. It's not Bruce's fault. Bruce is only one guy. I mean, Bruce, of course, from Carter that was down there forever.
Yep. North Texas guy.
Yeah, he was his. He was the guy that they dropped all the blame on. Well, come on, man.
Bruce is one of the ADs or something over in Arlington ISD now.
He sure is assistant AD over there. Yep.
Yeah. I had enough of this coaching shit, and I'm gonna go home.
Well, I saw
get a regular job.
I saw the other day. I feel really bad because Kenny Perry is one of the best guys I know, and Kenny's the defensive coordinator now up at Kansas with David Beatty.
Okay.
And they lost to somebody that they really shouldn't have lost to, and
I think those are Snoop's buddies up there.
Kenny's gonna be coming home pretty quick. That's an unwinnable job. You can't win up there. You just can't win up there.
It's tough. Well, nobody's done it. Well, I hate to say can't, but nobody's done it.
Well, you can't do. I mean, then of course, right across campus, you got Bill Self winning national championships. Which Jesus Christ, Bill, thanks.
Yeah, he's going to win Big 12 championships. What, 12 in a row or something like
13,
that?
13, I think. Last year was 13 or something crazy.
But the real point in this segment, and we get ready to go to basketball when we come back, is that let's just stop and think and take a look at this. Is that TCU is the lone. You got TCU, you got Baylor, you got Texas, you got Texas A&M, you got Texas Tech, and you have the University of Houston. To me, those are the 6 schools that potentially have the ability and the program to be top 25 in the country.
And I left TCU off that list. Oh, and by the way, did you see that North Texas absolutely pounded SMU the other day?
I mean,
lit them up.
On?
It was embarrassing to watch how bad SMU got beat. They got beat like high school kids.
Right. No, I heard it was pretty bad.
It was awful.
And I heard it didn't go very well at the end of the day.
That was a really, really bad.
That's right. You went out to go watch, didn't you?
That was really, really bad.
Hey, my second rant on coaching hires, I don't like the mid-major successful guy who's the flavor of the month guy, the Tom Herman thing. But I also don't like the old retread who goes to the mid-major. Because that's what they got right now. They got another retread, and he's got to bring in credibility. He's going to get his ass kicked, and he's going to get run out of town in 3 years like everyone else does.
Going back to what you said before we get ready to go to break here, is that you go out and you hire the mid-major guy. He's got to have some high major pedigree, some high major resume points that he actually understands the dynamics of being in that cooking. That pressure cooker every single day.
When Buzz Williams got the job at Marquette, you told me he hired Tony Benford. That was a great hire because Tony had all those connections that Buzz might have had but probably didn't have.
Right.
And it showed.
Well, there's the connections and also knowing that every single day, that you have something that you have to manage. There are no down days when you're in a high major basketball or football program. every single day. Okay, what did the media say something? Did one of the kids do something stupid? Is there a mad parent?
You're always putting out fires.
You're always putting out fires.
Constantly
putting out fires. I had a close friend that was interim head coach at Texas Tech, and he said, my whole day is just made up of saying yes and no, yes and no, yes and no.
You want to hear something funny? I remember about 30 years ago, I was a real idiot, and I was telling one of my buddies who got a college job, I said, man, that must be really awesome. I said, you get your car, you get your little bit of, shoe allotment and everything. I said, and you ain't got to F with parents anymore. He said, are you kidding me? He goes, you think I'm getting less of it than you? Every kid that we coach up here was the best kid you guys had.
That's
so
right.
every single one of them comes in thinking they're going to play every minute. So, no, we're constantly dealing with this garbage, man.
Constantly dealing with it. We come back, we're going to dive all the way into Basketball Thursday right here on the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network. Our next guest will be Stacey Houston and Chris Gaston from the Elite Grind session where we attended this past weekend and had an opportunity to look at some of the best players in the state of Texas. And while the football might be struggling a little bit, basketball prospect is not losing. Texas is finding their way through and up the recruiting angles, and now can we figure out a way to keep them in Texas?
That's the hard part, right? That's the hard part.
I'll tell you some more stories about those statistics when we come back right here on the Lone Star Sports Show, where it's all things sports, all things Texas. This particular segment is brought to you by the Lone Star JUCO Prep Showcase, October the 5th and 6th, located at Drive Nation Fieldhouse, where we'll have 14 Division I junior colleges and a host of another 12 prep and high school programs, and covering roughly about 7 or 8 states, I believe it is, that all be in attendance out there, where that will lure in another 75 to 100 Division I college coaches during that recruiting evaluation period. Come out to Drive Nation on October the 5th and 6th between the hours of 10 and 8 on both days, and come take a look at the next ones. Had a chance to go to Region 14. I'll talk about that a little bit too when we come back on yesterday. Hey, here we are at the Lone Star Sports Show right at the Lone Star Sports Network. We're going to get the guys on the phone here and get started on this elite grind. Y'all chime in and listen. If you have some questions, you can call in at 713-392-1930. Tom Emman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and the Prince, Uneven Money, back in 180 seconds. Hey, you're all rolling back in here at the Lone Star Sports Show. Today's show is brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. FastSmallSports.com is leading basketball into the 21st century through the vehicle of technology, led by CEO and founder Ross Comerford right there in Chicago, Illinois. Go look at FastSmallSports.com and see what they are doing and all of the products in which they offer. You got Tom Emman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and the main man, the Prince, Uneven Money, making it do what it does. Right now, we are happy to have one of our regular invitees comes in expert analyst on basketball in the DFW area. Stacy Houston with DJH5 and all his various platforms, and business partner and community leader in basketball. But at the same time, I'm really, really excited to have another young man that I've known for a long time, go way back to about 2006 or 2007, Chris?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
That's
Chris,
a long time ago.
Long time ago. Chris Gaston was a young man that was doing a great job of coaching grassroots guys. He had a knack for point guards. I don't know if he recalls when he had De'Aaron Fox in the 9th grade. We were playing a 17U tournament at the gym in which they won. And De'Aaron Fox was an 8th grader going to the 9th grade, played. And I told him, I say, that kid there will be one of the best point guards in the country. I wasn't even talking he'll be a pro. I was just talking about the fact of how high his IQ and how he understood how to manage the game on both ends of the floor at that time at such a young age. And he went on to be an elite athlete. And I often thought that somewhere around the junior to senior year in high school, that the true De'Aaron Fox was kind of lost in the fact of score. And now I think he's having an opportunity to return to who he actually really is. But it's Basketball Thursday here, and Tom, Emma, and I, we always use the last hour, if not the whole show, depending on what time of year it is, to talk about the old days of Snoop Johnson. We were really, really basketball heavy on Basketball Thursday. But this past weekend, we had a chance to have the Elite Grind Camp. Second year of the Elite Grind Camp. I was invited to the Elite Grind Camp last year, and down in Houston, Texas. We were over in Fort Bend County, maybe in Missouri City or somewhere there in a gym over that way.
Yeah,
crossover, right. And I always like to see things get better. Not saying that last year in Houston wasn't good, but I thought we got a whole lot better this year with the amount of talent and the balance in talent based on class. I have 37 kids attending. Is that about right, Stacy?
We had total 36.
36. Okay, I got.
Yes, sir. We had two guys who didn't show.
I got 37 on my list, Coach. I'm sitting here looking at the testing right now.
I think it was 37. We had Jalen Posey come at the last minute.
Right. Yep.
It was Jalen Posey and one more player.
Yeah, we don't obviously have time for me to call them out, but Stacey, I got 37, so I thought maybe I know we had one kid that was there for only one day, or maybe that wasn't there both days.
Yeah, well, there was two kids. There were two kids who didn't show, but you ran the right numbers. It was 35. It was 35 plus.
Y'all tested the standing vertical, wingspan, three-quarter court sprint on roughly
and the shuttle.
Yeah, on the shuttle and the height and lane agility was done on them. So I got 37 tested. But anyway, let's talk about where y'all want to start from. Let's finish. Let me back up just a little bit more and talk about the fact that in the process of doing this, what is your true goal, Chris? Right now, okay, you brought Stacy in. You know, Stacy can run events. He knows how to manage. He has good relationships in the community. It's obvious why you would bring Stacy to be a part and help guide and the logistics of everything going on during the course of the event. But on the flip side of it, what would you say your main mission and goal is? Because we never really had anything. John Lucas done some things that are a little bit similar to this, but there is the elite of the elite. We love to abuse that term elite in grassroots basketball, but there's nobody sneaking through the back door here. I think I know a little bit about what I'm looking at. I don't think we had a prospect in the gym that was below a mid-major prospect, and I would say 70% of them had a high major Power 5 chance. Tell us what your mission is with the Elite Grind deal and coming back to Texas.
Well, it's a twofold mission. My first mission, I came up through the business. I was being blessed to work with pros and work on the pro level. So I wanted to give these elite guys, you know, a sample of what it's like to be a pro. You know, that's what it would be like if you're going to a 2-day NBA combine. That's kind of exactly what the mission of it was.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm integrating myself back into the high school team. I've been dealing with inundated with the pros for the past couple of years. That, you know, I do want to get familiar with some of the top high school kids and you know, see if I can help with their process. And I got a lot of experience now on what to do and what not to do as far as getting to not the next level, but the level after that.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm always on the search looking for guys who have a chance. You know, have a chance. So, you know, we want to. That was the whole goal of the camp.
Well,
to find elite guys, obviously in our region first, and then around the country, and kind of get them introduced to that level of intensity and, you know, a 2-day crash course of what it takes to be a pro.
Right. Makes sense. Makes a whole lot of sense, and I like to, you know, acknowledge the fact that I think that you well on route and you did achieve the proper experience. I mean, it was a great atmosphere. It brought out the passion of why I do what I do as a basketball scout. Was able to do it in an environment that was I didn't have to spend so much time trying to figure out who could play at the next level and who couldn't play at the next level. Everybody could play at some next level. Now I had to more or less cipher out what level is their particular projection, or how do they project out on this particular given weekend or day, which direction that's going. So it gave me a chance to look at it like that. I enjoy that. I enjoy that a whole lot more than coming to a camp with 200 kids in it and realizing that there are only 40 of these kids going to play in college.
I'm a big believer in iron sharpens iron. I don't like seeing one elite player playing against, you know, on a team by himself where he's taking 40, 50 shots and he's the man. I like him. That's what it's going to be like if you want to go to Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina. You're going to play with other elite players. So
well, and
guys need to learn.
I totally agree with you. And Stacy has heard me say this on multiple occasions. I know Honey's heard me say this, is that when you're in an environment, I like to be in camps where there's a certain amount of structure and reality versus one kid just running around shooting up all the balls and beating the air out of the basketball. It's just terrible to watch that. And the guys that are going to run camps should be accountable to a quality level of basketball and let the kids do. One of the things that I felt like that you didn't allow is a lot of over dribbling, you know, and that's one of the biggest issues right now is kids wanting to beat the air out of the basketball, and they don't really know how bad that is.
Right. And the day before I met with all the coaches, and we put in about 5 to 6 NBA type sets. Like I say, we just introducing those guys to the introductory level of that. And the NBA, unless you're James Harden or Carmelo, it's not going to be a lot of old dribbles. It's going to be a lot of passing and moving, catch and shoot. You know, real simple.
And
we're just trying to introduce
reality
those guys
game.
to that.
I'm going to reach out to a guy that's been around the grassroots side of the youth side of things. Stacey, what do you think about the state of quality of basketball being played and grassroots guys and high school coaches holding them accountable to playing basketball the right way? What do you think that is right now?
Well, you have a gentleman that's on the show with you and Coach Inman, who is a coach that believes in discipline. But when I say believes in discipline, I'm not just talking about doing what's right and doing what's wrong, but also incorporating, making sure guys are held accountable. And what I believe the state of basketball is right now, nobody's being held accountable. AU guys aren't being held accountable. Directors aren't being held accountable. Some high school, well, I shouldn't say some, most high school coaches aren't being held accountable. What we're about to see with the changing of the NCAA rules and them attempting to put it back, you know, so-called putting it back in the hands of the high school coaches, we're going to see right now what high school coaches were invested, like a Coach Inman. And I can go and name some other individual coaches I think are going to be invested, but I'm using Coach Inman as an example.
He's convenient.
Because
He's right here.
since I've known him, since I've known him, he's always been invested in his players. And the state of basketball is at a term or at a place for me that there's not a lot of people that are truly invested in basketball, and that's teaching. You know, that's teaching kids the concepts, that's holding them accountable, that's putting him through the proper workouts. It's become a
arms race.
It's more of a business than more of a love. So we got a lot of people that are doing it because of the business aspect of it, but not because of the love and the respect of the game.
Being accountable.
So if what Gaston and I talked about when he talked about doing it, and I was privileged to go to the camp last year.
Yeah, you and I were down there.
The one thing I walked away from it with Gaston was I knew he cared about every kid and what they learned in those 2 days. Whether he had a relationship with them or he didn't have a relationship with them, he made sure that his coaches were in tune to what his vision was. And so this year when we started talking about it, it was more so, okay, let's build upon that, but let's bring elite level guys in so our elite level guys can compete against each other, because very seldom, even when they go to camps, and I'll use a camp, for example, who comes here at Pango's camp, we don't always get the matchups. We don't always get a time frame of this is what we're going to run.
We don't get an iron sharpen iron. We don't get any accountability when we come.
What? Not just that, Mr. Branch, is that these guys had sets to run. And if they didn't run those sets, coach stopped, called timeout, and said, "Hey, let's get back to what we're supposed to be doing."
That's one of the things.
So that's the accountability part.
That's the accountability part. That's one of the things we put in the cream of the crop. I learned that how important that was at an NBA Top 100 camp when I was there, and I kind of brought that back to Texas. We got to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're gonna address the fact that are guys afraid of coaching good players the right way because they're afraid of losing them? Is that the whole deal, or what is the whole situation? We got some good authorities on here right now going to talk about that. And parents, should you be puppeting coaches to do what you want them to do in spite of the best interest of the development of your son? Back in 180 seconds with more Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. All things sports, all things Texas. Today's show is brought to you by FastMallSports.com. This particular segment was brought to you by HardhamHotels.com. Go take a look at Hardham Hotels down in the Bayou City and see how you can put your money where you sleep. Back in 180 seconds with more Basketball Thursday. Back here at the Lone Star Sports Show on the Lone Star Sports Network, giving it to you like it is. All things sports, all things Texas. We got both Stacey Houston and Chris Gaston in talking elite grind. We got my main man, Ani, keeping us where we're supposed to be. Lady Life over there. punching all the buttons, making all the pictures look like they're supposed to look, and Tom Emmett and Alan Branch somehow trying to lead this thing in the right direction. But right before we left, we were talking about an issue that we feel like has become a really difficult situation, and whether it's with a grassroots coach, whether it's with a high school coach, or whether it's a camp coach, you have to coach these guys on pins and needles with the fear of a parent or a kid getting upset because they're not getting their way. Do you feel like this is why some of the discipline has evaporated out? And I'm gonna throw this at Stacy, because I know Stacy and I are down in the trenches on this every single day. You know, Chris, you get a chance to go back to Beaverton, Oregon somewhere, and deal with a bunch of lottery picks. It's on a whole different thing. They're trying to make a living, but we're down here in the trenches of grassroots basketball. What do you think it is, Stacy, that guys are willing to tolerate? I mean, we've already got some at Cream of the Crop camp. One of our elite kids, I had to get in his you know what about waving a camp coach off about what he wanted to do, because just like you guys ran your stuff, there were sets put in. He wanted to break out of a set. Coach called a timeout, and he was trying to wave him off. Don't call a timeout. We good. We good. Why is it that? Why are guys willing to tolerate that? What is it with the generation of coaches we're dealing with? I mean, you've been around 20 years, Stacey.
It's the business. They're looking at the business. They're not looking at what's developing the kid. And I'm an old school. I'm 48.
Yeah.
One thing I was taught in the early on playing was you don't disrespect your coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so now guys tolerate that because of the business aspect of it.
Hey, Stacy, can I ask?
I think if
Tom,
I don't mean to interrupt you, Stacy. Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
could you have waved that coach off and not got the black slapped off your face by your mom or dad at home when you went home that night?
What?
And same thing here.
No.
There's no way. Ken Inman ain't playing that game.
My mom, or my dad would have came to the bench. So I would have got embarrassed in front of everybody.
Well, that's my point, because that kid's only doing what those parents tolerate, and half of the shame of this whole game and what it's degenerated into is these parents are pimping their kids, and they're looking at them as a paycheck. That's my way to retire early.
A lot of parents aren't at the games too.
Yeah,
Let's keep that in mind.
But I'm just saying that behavior is born of the fact that they give them too much self-importance. You're still a kid, man. My dad would tell me, you can think you whatever the hell you want, but you're still mowing the lawn, dude.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct.
And the point coming back around to it, this is the problem that I have, and I think Gaston could understand this. Chris, if you don't hold the kids accountable to play the right way, and you say you're in it for the money, your product is not going to be able to generate any revenue because it's not going to be worth anything.
You're exactly right.
That
kind of holds true on my side of the business too, on my side of the world too, because guys are scared to really get into guys for the fear it might lose them as a client or whatever. But you can't have fear of loss if you really want to, do what's best for this client.
That's a perfect example right there. You got dollars and cents on the line, and you got to get into a dude that you're working out about his deficiencies to get him better, and go at him right in a real direct way. You can't.
And as they get older, it's a way you could do it with respect. You don't have to disrespect a guy and curse him out and belittle him. Mm-hmm. But some guys are scared to say anything to a guy. That could be intimidating. You working on a guy's making $100 million, and and you got to tell them, do this or do that.
Right.
He might look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, go ask George Karl. Go ask George Karl, right?
But I was really proud. I got a report back from up in Oregon that Nike had allowed you, and you might want to elaborate if you can or whatever, no big deal, but you have been allowed to work out some of the feature Nike incoming NBA rookies, and how good a job you were doing, and the fact that Nike had entrusted you with that situation. Can you or are you willing to elaborate on that in any kind of way, or how that went?
Yeah, Nike invited some of the top young players, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Bell, De'Aaron Fox, Colin Sexton, and then it was two WNBA players, Kelsey Plum and Kelsey Mitchell.
Okay.
So, that was it's just funny if I can re-go to what you were just saying. I had Kyle Kuzma. At first, I had Kyle Kuzma, Jason Tatum, Jordan Bell. I was like, hey, all the big guys, we down this end. All right, yes, sir, Gas, no problem. We worked out, got a sweat and everything. That very next day, I had a parent call me from the elite grind. I was like, hey, Gaston, y'all got my son listed as a wing or a big. He's not a wing or a big, he's this. And I told him, I said, sir, I just worked out Jason Tatum, Kyle Kuzma. These are some of the best young guys in the NBA. They had no problem with me naming their position, basketball positions anyway.
It's basketball, exactly.
Your son, your son is, a young high school kid, but I don't even know if he's ranked or not. And you're telling me, you're worried about his position. I said, your mindset is in the wrong place.
Mindset is in the wrong place.
Just get on the floor.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience, though, man.
And I'm going to talk about a guy that just wanted to get on the floor. When I first met Chris Gaston, I guess he was coaching the Houston Prep Elite. Is that should be about right? Or maybe a little bit before that. I can't put my finger on it. I'm losing my timeline a little bit there. But we had a young man named Damian Dotson. And Damian Dotson played the 5 all summer long and never complained, not one bit, with the Houston Hoops, because that game they had 3 McDonald's All-Americans at the guard position, and he didn't complain about I'm a 2 or I'm a 3 or I should be playing. I'm playing out of position. All he wanted was an opportunity to play, and that kept him on the floor. It ended up allowing him to go to Elite Eights and Sweet 16s and end up in the NBA now.
One of my best friends is Thomas Hill, that played at Duke with Christian Laettner and Grant Hill and all those guys, right? In high school, he was a 5. He played 5 feet from the basket and turned and dunked on everyone's ass. That's all he did. He didn't care. He said, I don't care where I play. I'm just here to kick your ass.
Right. And for
get on the floor.
Get on the floor. That's the opportunity to get on the floor. And it's turned into more of a positionless game. If you can't move without the basketball and feel comfortable catching the basketball in multiple places, then you're going to struggle in the game of basketball. And you got the so-called handlers and the parents and the summer coaches. Oh, my guy's a 4 and he's not a 3 and he's not there. Why not the hell we just make him a basketball player? I mean, where is that going, Stacey? You right here in the middle of it with me.
Well, when you have freak of nature players like Kevin Durant, some of these other guys out here that are, 6'10" and 6'9", and, Carmelo and those guys that are playing, back in the day, they would have automatically been post players. Guys look at their size and say, I can do that. But what they don't have that those guys have is that work ethic. They don't realize that those guys have put in thousands upon thousands of
shots and
hours to be able to do that. But if guys go back and think, even with Durant, Rick Barnes made Durant play short corner and post up some too at Texas. He didn't always just float on the perimeter. And like you guys said in the beginning, you have to be able to realize whatever it takes for me to get on the floor, whatever I need to do to get on the floor. And once I get on the floor, I can show coach what I'm capable of doing if I put the time in. But I don't think guys are putting enough time in. And that's the one thing that me and Gaston really focused on with the camp, was really showing guys that you got to sacrifice and you got to be selfless. You got to really understand what it takes to be a pro. And we were fortunate enough, and he was able to get De'Aaron to come in and spend the entire day with the guys, getting involved in the drills, showing guys different things in the drills, speaking to the guys. So the experience of the camp was something that we've never had in Dallas.
No.
And so for Gaston to say, I'm going to move the camp to a different city each year. One year we'll do it in Houston and we'll bring it to Dallas, and the following year we'll go back to Houston. I wanted to make sure that we showed him how much we appreciated him bringing that camp, to Dallas. So I just think that guys, they don't understand what it takes to be a pro. You just think because somebody says you're a pro, you're going to be a pro. And they don't understand the concepts of
skills and drills, man. Because like I say, I relied on you and Chad and a couple of people, because I ain't know half those guys. I relied on a committee to invite these guys. So I came in with a blind eye. I didn't want to know any rankings of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys get exposed when you start doing skills and drills. You know, you see a lot of guys can't shoot the left hand floater, or they can't pull up. You know, shoot a one drill pull up, but they don't even know how to shoot a jump hook.
Well, a lot of guys have made our rankings on potential.
Mr. Brady, I got to tell you this. Mm-hmm. So each day, Gaston took a group where he specifically worked with those groups for 30 minutes, and I have a list of the groups. Mm-hmm. And I'm not gonna call a group out, but it was our younger group. Mm-hmm. It was our younger guys, right? Mm-hmm. And so guys, they actually had the 8:30 one. So they come strolling there. Gaston been there at 7:00. It don't start to 7. Me and Gaston, we get there at 7:00. Mm-hmm. We sitting there, so we're really looking to see who's gonna be on time, what time people gonna come, what time you gonna get there.
Right.
So you got guys coming in at 8:15, 8:20, 8:25. Gaston put them right in the mix.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at the unprepared. They were unprepared. They didn't get the stretch. Mm-hmm. It starts at 8:30.
So they don't take it serious. And I'm gonna say this: we got to go to break, and we're gonna come back and chime in. But one of the problems that we have on that, Stacy, is those kids most of those young kids you're talking about don't drive themselves to the camp, so they feel like the only time that they really need to show up, I drive them over there and make sure he's there in time for the play-in, and all that other stuff they're doing doesn't really that important. So you got a lot of the kids following the leadership of the people that are buying the gas and renting the hotel rooms.
Well, when you come back, I'm gonna talk. My dad never watched me play one basketball game. Never. My mom never watched me play one basketball game. But if I told them I had to be there at 8:30, I'm gonna go back to what Coach Emmett said. They had me there at 8:00.
Right, there you go.
You see what I'm saying?
And
so we can't blame the kid. And I also made sure that they knew what time I needed to be there.
Coach, I get that all the time. We're going to come back and talk about that when we come back. We're going to run the break right quick. This particular segment was brought to you by the Lonestar JUCO Prep Showcase. It'll be at Drive Nation. Roughly 14 Division I junior colleges, another 12 to 14 high school and prep schools from roughly 7 states will be October the 5th and 6th, located right there at Drive Nation Fieldhouse. That particular talent will draw in another 75 to 100 Division I college coaches. We'll see y'all in just 180 seconds with more of the Lone Star Sports Show right here on the Lone Star Sports Network. Tom Emman, Alan Branch, Lady Life, and the Prince Under Your Money. And we have Chris Gaston and DJ 85, my main man, leading us down the way and coming back and giving all his knowledge, who has the most, Stacey Houston, the most feel for what's going on right here in the DFW area. Right back in 120 seconds. Hey, here we are back here at the Lone Star Sports Show, the Lone Star Sports Network. When we went to break right then, we were on a topic, and I thought Stacey had us right where we needed to be on that situation. The parents are the one that's driving the kids there. But, Stacey, do you think that they're going to accept and I say who is they, our overall grassroots parental responsible adult community about the value of you guys ran those sessions like you did, an opportunity for them to spend time with some elite tutelage from an NBA player to a guy that has developed, Damian Dotson, Eric Moreland, Darian Fox, those three for sure, 3 pros, multiple other college players, worked with the elite of that. There's not enough. What does that say about our community, Stacey? There's not enough respect for that opportunity. How many kids would just die for the opportunity to be in that kind of environment for 30 extra minutes before you start playing and understanding what they possibly can learn? Or have we just become numb and saying we just want exposure, social media, do this, do that, let me shoot up all the balls, and I'm going to be the best one? What's going on, Stacey?
Well, I think what it is it goes back to what Coach Inman said, too. We've gotten accustomed to not being held accountable. Mm-hmm. So normally when you go to a camp, and again, this camp that was ran here is nothing like it. There's nothing like it that's been ran in Dallas. No, and what I'm saying is everybody was good. Mm-hmm. So
and
when you say
structure too, go ahead.
Right. So when you say what are we getting to, it's just holding people accountable. And what we did was when those guys came in, we didn't give them time to work out or warm up. Mm-hmm. They had to put the shoes on. They got straight to the floor. Mm-hmm. So what they started to realize was, I even had, and the parents, they embraced it. They just weren't used to it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We kept parents away. We kept parents away mm-hmm. from what was going on. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And it was
like I said, I want to simulate it. When you come in, they work at halftime. They don't stretch you and warm you up. When you coming out for the draft, when you try to run one of them teams, you got to come in there stretched out and warm up on your own.
Right.
And ready to go. You walk in the gym, you got to be ready to go.
And a lot of these guys that were there are not going to be pros, but they are going to play in major college basketball situations where you got to be accountable. You know, if practice starts at 7:00, and you get there at 6:55, you're late to practice already. And they don't understand that mentality of already being laced up, already being stretched out, already being able to take advantage of the time that's needed. And I run into that even at the cream of the crop camp with those young kids and Lonestar Top 100 camp. You got so many adults that are showing or demonstrating, well, what time we gonna start playing? We got to do all that. Does he really need to be at the team practice?
Right. We got to change mindsets.
You got to change mindsets.
And I think that goes with everybody. Mm-hmm. That goes with tournaments. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying the other day, I was going to ask Coach, did you have a problem at school with guys not showing up in time enough for the bus or not being on time? What were the consequences for that when guys didn't get there on time and do what they're supposed to do?
Well,
we got to have the same thing in AAU basketball, in summer basketball.
Well,
when guys aren't on time.
I'm trying not to be the grumpy old guy that says don't walk on my grass and turn the music down, because really I'm all for stomping on my grass and turning the damn music up. But at the end of the day, I watched the last 5, 6, maybe 8 years. It was almost impossible to get anyone anywhere on time. I just gave them fake deadlines. We're leaving at 5 o'clock, knowing full well we're leaving at 5:30. Mm-hmm. Just bullshit, for lack of a better phrase.
Right.
And that's pretty watered down. Because here's another good example. On a Saturday practice when I was at Plano, which was a long time ago, we used to always have a rule that if you were every minute late that you were for practice, you owed me a 1-minute drill, which is up and back 5 times in a minute. So if you show up an hour late, you owe me 60 1-minute drills, and you're damn sure going to pay them up. Man, if I did that, these kids would be I couldn't play a team. It got to the point where me and Barron used to talk about it. How it would drive us nuts because we felt like we were compromising ourselves. But there's a certain part of, you got to be realistic.
Well, I feel like if you're going to fix something, Stacey, and I appreciate you coming on too, Chris, but Stacey and I are down here in the trenches on this thing, and Unnie's a young man that's listening to this thing at the same time. If you're going to fix something, you got to go to the source of how did they start thinking this way? What makes them think this is right? What makes them think they can get by with this?
One of my biggest pet peeves is the very first time that a kid hears that he's a pro, he takes to the person who said that like a bee takes to honey, until the next person tells him he's a pro. And then, I mean, there's a lot of professional basketball players. Like one of my best players I ever had was John Robertson. He's playing over in Russia now, right? And John was a great player, and he's a pro, but he's not an NBA pro. And I made that clear to him. I said, you can make money playing basketball. It's going to be tough at 5'11" playing in the NBA, which of course it is. It is tough, but playing in the NBA at 5'11". But these kids get their head filled full of shit early on, and then if you're ever the naysayer, well, you're just a hater. No, I'm not a hater. I'm just here to tell you that this is good, but this needs to get better.
But Coach, you're qualified. You were qualified to tell him that. A lot of times, these guys out here that are evaluating, these guys that are selling these false hopes and these dreams, they're not qualified.
Well, that's the worst thing is, I mean, you're exactly right that they're not qualified. And even with the qualifications, I won a state championship, and I still get treated like a dumbass old white dude. So, I mean, I can't imagine how they treat these clowns.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And a lot of times people say qualified. I remember when I started in this business, I coached, I washed uniforms, I drove the van, I went to camps. I was with Steve Keller at what y'all know as a hoop group now. Back then it had a different name, and I watched 800 players a day, and I walked around and carried the chair for Steve Keller, and listened and watched him write reports. Kankowski, being around those guys, I earned the ability to be able to evaluate a player.
Yeah,
I sit with Van Coleman while Van Coleman taught me at NBA top 100 camp 10, 12 years ago, and told me, Brent, you watching that player too long. You've seen this. Those guys continuously, kind of like he was saying, sharpened me and held me accountable to a situation. Now you go get a social media site, and now you're running a scouting service. How many? Where are your notches in your belt? How many times have you been right?
Well, these people will say that I'm an NBA trainer because I stood next to an NBA player one time. It's like that commercial. So have you ever been an NBA player? No, but I did say at a Holiday Inn Select last night. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, give me a break.
But Chris Gaston is a perfect example of a guy that came up through. I mean, I know I'm aging and telling how old I am. But Chris Gaston was a young guy that had some players. He came in and worked. He got next to this guy. He learned this from this guy. He got next. He continuously gained more opportunity. He was in the gym every single day. To now he's gotten to the point that a company like Nike would turn some of their elite rookies in the NBA over to him. They wouldn't turn them over to him in 2005. And it wasn't because he wasn't working.
But for every legitimate Chris Gaston, there's 20 guys out there claiming that they're an NBA trainer with absolutely no credibility whatsoever. It's like that CNN commercial where they show the apple go by. This is an apple. This is an apple. This is an apple. And then they show you, they show a banana go by. It's still an apple.
Social media. I blame that.
I do too. I do too. Everyone's a reporter. Everyone's a journalist.
Can go up to a player and take a picture with him and say, I worked him out. Get a sweaty and now I'm an NBA trainer.
Right, and then
if you can sell yourself, then you're an NBA trainer these days.
Right, and the crazy part about that is. And this is where I blame the parents and influential adults, we'll call them, because sometimes they're not always parents. This is where I blame them is they're walking around wanting somebody to say what they want to hear. So now anybody that comes along in the process and says what they want to hear and doesn't have anything negative to say, he needs to get better at this, he needs to get better at that, and tell them everything they want to hear, that's the people they gravitate toward.
When people have where do people go? The path of least resistance or the path of most resistance? Human nature is to go to the path of least resistance. You're going to go to people who are going to tell you how handsome you are and how funny you are and blah 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 blah. Well, I've always been told, be careful of anyone who tells you everything you want to hear. Be really careful.
And that's the reality of it. But I continuously come back around to Stacey Houston because Stacey Houston is in the trenches of what's going on. Stacey, can an Alan Branch and a Stacey Houston, who probably are the oldest evaluators in the area, definitely African American evaluators, can we set a precedence? Can we affect the culture, or are they not willing to listen? What do you think on that, Stacey?
No, I think a lot of guys are willing to listen because this weekend I had some conversations with some guys that are influential in their cities.
Mm-hmm.
and from New Jersey, from Ohio, had a great conversation with Lupe down in San Antonio. And the one thing that was consistent was we need more events like this. And because parents got educated as well. And it wasn't a seminar. It wasn't we sat them down and we explained. They saw it with their eyes.
Right.
They got to see it and experience it. And what I would say to a direct answer to your question, Mr. Branch, yes. But what we have to do is we have to hold people accountable, including ourselves, with our product, with what we put out.
Okay.
And I think if we consistently do those things, now everybody starts to follow suit.
Okay.
Like, I had 20-something people text me, why didn't I get an invite to the camp? Well, I've invited you to several different things that we've done, and you never come, so why invite you this time? Well, I bet you the next time I invite you to something, you're going to step up and you're going to want to come.
October the 7th. October the 7th at Drive Nation. Southwest Regional Camp will be right there on the 7th after the junior college event and prep school event. That particular period, we'll have one full day of evaluation camp that'll be going on during that time. It'll be operated once again in a structured type environment. We're here trying to find a way to make this a better place and be more productive for the young people in basketball in our community. We come back for our last segment. We're gonna let Chris Gaston talk about what he's had a chance to see in his 15 years of being in the business. I'm counting the years in my head, but roughly 15 years in the business and how he's gotten where he is and how he found his lane and his way in the process. Meanwhile, folks like us, Stacey Houston, Allen Branch, and are going to continuously try to hold up a certain sense of accountability in what we're doing and how we're influencing right here on Basketball Thursday on the Lone Star Sports Network on the Lone Star Sports Show. Today's show was brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. This particular segment was brought to you by Harlem Hotels. Go take a look and listen at HarlemHotels.com and see how you can put your money where you sleep and understand more about this investment opportunity. Back in 180 seconds with the last segment of the Lone Star Sports Show on Basketball Thursday. Hey, here we are on a stormy evening right here in the middle of the fall. Weather started to cool down a little bit on the Lone Star Sports Show right here in Oak Cliff, Texas, where all things sports, all things Texas is. We're lucky to have the guest of both Chris Gaston and Stacey Houston with DJ H5 tuning in, talking about the great experience that 36 kids had an opportunity to have there at Drive Nation this past weekend through the vehicle of the Elite Grind Camp, which was the second annual one, to the best of my knowledge. It was the second one that I had an opportunity to attend last year. We were in Houston.
Yeah, it was the second one.
Second one, right. And so this is our second one here. So before we go into the future of it, I'm always trying to give an opportunity to educate our community and what all the things we're doing. We recently, and I won't elaborate, you just go take a look at trayathletes.org, but we had another organization to come into the community providing some other off-the-court development, which I think is a holistic approach toward our student athletes to give them the best opportunity in life. But what I want to discuss with Chris Gaston, Coach Gaston, right now is, Coach, when you go out to these, let's say the Nike campus, and you got Nico Harrison there, who's the director of basketball for Nike, and you are in and out, and everything is being set up, everything's been operated, everything that goes into it. Would you elaborate, especially in the last 4 to 5 years that you've got to this high elite level that you've gotten to, the amount of non-court careers and a part of this industry that goes together, and the $1 trillion industry we know of basketball, right, how big it is, right, how much opportunity there is to be successful through the vehicle of basketball outside of playing and coaching.
Oh man, there's hundreds of opportunities. I mean, more than likely you're not going to the NBA. You know, you want every kid to achieve, strive for that. But I mean, I still don't have those guys positioned in Nike. You see them walking around, they're doing something, but I couldn't even say a position if I wanted to. But I mean, there's literally hundreds of positions in basketball without playing basketball. Well, not
right,
hundreds, there's thousands of positions.
Right. And
you think you can only be in it. Yeah. You think you can only be a player, a workout guy, or an agent. But
yeah.
It's 1,000 other positions in that.
And that's one of the things I want to drop. I want to drop this name. That's one of the things that I'm so happy, so excited about. What they're doing in Houston, there in Spring, Texas, with Legacy Sports Sciences, and everybody go take a look and figure it out. We don't have time to talk about it now. We had them on the other day. Is that we got to do a better job of exposing our kids to the many opportunities they are in the sports industry. We're only getting a chance to look at a small piece of the pie. Talking about $1 trillion industry, you're talking about youth sports tourism on the basketball side is a $3.5 billion a year industry. So we have all these different things going on, and all we're talking about is shooting jump shots and dunking and doing a little coaching. And the big picture of it right, is you can't do any of that forever. So what is a holistic look at how we can do a better job of grooming and preparing our kids to see the big picture of what the basketball industry is all about? And obviously we're already doing it.
I mean,
go ahead, Coach.
I mean, I just say we just got to educate our young guys, and they have to see somebody that looks like them.
Right.
If you go to Madison High School right now, they don't know who Nico Harrison is or Adrian Steadley, or they don't know who these guys are. They're not easily recognizable. They're not on social media. They're not on TV. So, I mean, if you don't know where to look, then you wouldn't be able to find these guys. So it takes guys like us to, educate these guys and show them that there are other avenues.
And Stacey, I'm gonna fall back on you again, Stacey, because you and I are right down in the trenches of it, where we actually are putting our hands on them every day. How do you think that we're going to go about, and I'll even throw this one at Tom, how do you think we go about doing a better job of educating the big picture of the basketball industry so that the kids have a better grasp of what all is there? Because nobody's going to play forever.
Well, I think the hardest thing to do is to try to get kids to take a big picture approach. Like the 8 years I was the head coach at Grand Prairie, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. There wasn't one single kid I coached in 8 years that was in the top 15 players I coached in my career, not even close. And there were some good players. But my point is that they don't see the big picture because all they see is the picture, they see the mirror looking back at them. And I just think that if they realize, I mean, you could throw statistics at them, less than 0.5% or whatever, and you can throw all the scare tactics at them and everything, but realistically, you got a better chance of getting hit by lightning than playing in the NBA. But if you're not careful, that falls on deaf ears because you're just a hater. You're just trying to tell me what I can't do. And you guys said it right. No one's trying to discourage your dream, but you got to have a plan B in place because when plan A don't work out, it's kind of embarrassing watching you sleep on your mama's couch.
And we say that all the time. Go, Stacey, in 10 seconds. We say
I think the biggest thing is just like with anything, a lot of things like, guys, join the gang and getting shot. People say it can't happen to me, or it's not going to happen to me. And they don't see the example that's right before them. Like, it can happen to you. If you understand that it can happen to you, now you're more willing to do what Coach Eamon is talking about, picking up a plan B. But these guys don't have, and it comes back to the parent, like Coach Eamon said, they're not educated. Right. So what we have to do is we have to use our relationships. To answer your question, Mr. Branch, is we're going to have to use our relationships. So, for instance, Gaston has a relationship with Nico and some of these other guys. We have to put together events that those guys deem, that's so organized and that event is ran so properly. I don't mind coming because I don't mind putting in 30 minutes to 45 minutes explaining, what is going on. Like, we had a guest speaker that came in and explained a lot of things, and we made those kids get involved. Like, they were just sitting there, and I singled out 10 kids that had to answer a question. They had to ask a question. We made them get involved, and before we knew, we had too many questions. We just ran over the time because they just jumped right in. And so we got to take the relationships of Coach Inman, your experience, Gaston, myself, other people in the community, and say, we're going to force feed them this. Those that swallow are going to get full. Those that don't swallow, they're going to sit on the corner hungry.
Right. And so I think we kind of draw a conclusion of if we're to do something, we got to incorporate an amount of exposure. I think Chris may have said it best. They don't know any better because they never seen any better. They don't know.
It's correct.
The opportunity is there, and these are things. I mean, there's some things that you can do in basketball that might be more attractive than playing in the NBA, especially when you look at the long-term plan of it, that potentially leads you into being an owner or being a general manager or possibly even being a commissioner of the league. We said there would never be a black president. So if there could be a black president, I think there could be a black commissioner of the NBA. I don't know. Am I out of my lane, or what am I saying here?
But the difficult part, though, is I've been going through this with two different ex-players of mine. One of them is a kid I married into the family of, and I'm not that close to. And another kid is Robertson, who I'm really, really, really close to, right? And both of these people I've talked to about coaching. And they look at you like, I mean, it's not like they don't think they would ever do it, but they're 28, 29, 30 years old. And, everyone's got that Superman complex. So I'll be playing forever. No, you won't. Father Time's undefeated, bro.
Well, and that's
it's hard to sell. It's really hard to sell on kids.
I think there are kids that struggle with that there's going to be a time after. But I still go back to Chris Gaston because I know Chris Gaston is in a cutting edge environment as far as technology, as far as the things like you say. He's in an environment where there are a lot of guys walking around that are getting a check and he's not quite sure what it is they do, but they show up every day. So they wouldn't keep on showing up every day.
And these days, you can create your own position. I mean, like you said, there's so much with data and technology and analytics.
Yeah.
And if you're smart enough, you can go create your position.
Yeah.
Create your position.
And that's exactly right. And one of the things I was really impressed with the way Trey athletes walked in and quietly and Stacey Houston knows what I'm talking about, although nobody else probably knows much what I'm doing. But they nominated X number of kids into a process to nurture them and guide them through understanding the big picture of being a student athlete and what your opportunities are beyond basketball and where you can end up being. And I'll take 30 seconds. It was one of the people involved with Trey athletes was so disappointed when one of their Big 12 teammates that had played with them had received a degree from a Big 12 institution, and they were delivering pizza after all the playing and everything was over with because they hadn't been led and guided into what do I do next. All they ever did was play. And that's what we don't want to happen in the situation. Yeah, it is to understand how to develop relationships, how to be groomed, and how to be prepared. And most of all, like Chris Gaston is saying, being exposed. We're going to take 2 minutes before we go close out the show. Chris, give us the 2-minute breakdown on the Virgin, and you can take 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll pull it off for you, and break the Virgin down of where the Elite Grind camp / academy process is going and projected to go over the next 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, we don't put no specific dates or cities out, but, you know, it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Okay.
You know, we're going to eventually go. I mean, it's not going to just be a Texas thing.
Well,
I'm born and raised in Houston, so that's where we started it. You know, we moved up the street to Dallas. So, I mean, we're going to continue to move it. You know, we're going to attack players on the West Coast, East Coast. I mean, one day it might be global. It might be universal. So that's just the plan, is to grow it as big as possible with the national brand. And, you know, it's a must-stop shop for the top players in the country.
And here at the Lone Star Sports Show and Lone Star Sports Network, all things sports, all things Texas, can I get you to give me a promise that we're going to keep the Dallas-Houston rotation going, and then we'll conquer the rest of the world out there, but we're going to maintain that?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
For sure. That's where my roots are at. Texas. That's where the roots are at.
Yeah.
But
so we want to hold on
grow
to
and
that.
expand at the same time.
So
we're gonna never forget that.
And I'm all a part of growing and expanding, but you know, we do a pretty good job down here in Texas producing prospects and good players. And so we just appreciate you not going to Hollywood and forgetting about it. I know you live in California now, L.A.?
Yeah, nah, man. I never go Hollywood, man. I'm born and raised,
come back
man.
and remember when Doc come over there and them guys wanted to run y'all off. I said, no, y'all can't run Gaston off. But no, that was a good old day. That's an inside joke. Only Gaston I know that one. But no, man, really appreciate what you're doing, man, and not forgetting about us. We appreciate Stacey Houston with the energy and effort that he brings. And what I really want to say about you, Stacey, is the open-mindedness that you have grown and developed into seeing the big picture of how this thing potentially works to better our community. And you've always had a community consciousness that I've always had a level of respect for. So we want to announce again, October the 7th, it'll be Stacey Houston will be returning with the support of Honor You Money and Allen Branch of returning back to the Southwest Regional Camp and Showcase October 7th at Drive Nation. You'll see more information on that. Electronic flyers, it'll all be out there for you to see. We want to thank these two guys for coming on and joining us at the Lone Star Sports Network. Always my co-host, Tom Inman, for doing it the way he does it. Lady Life for being patient there with all the sports going on in her social, political, economic world that she lives in. And my young prince over there, Honor Your Money, getting where it's done. Who knows what he's doing right now. But I'm finna shoot out here and get to a DeSoto JV football game right now and go watch my grandson play. Yeah, y'all have a good night. Thanks a lot for everybody. We'll be seeing you on next week with more Lone Star Sports Show brought to you by FastSmallSports.com. All things sports, all things Texas. Be safe this weekend. Travel and enjoy some Texas football.